Okay, are we on the air?
We're on the air.
We're on the air now.
Yes.
We are on the air.
As SuggestCast.
Do I
Coming at you for the 11th time on SuggestCast number 11.
It's a special Sunday edition of SuggestCast.
Sunday Fun Day. And we are joined by Benjamin Hopscotch Heaton. I'm going to say nicknames from last time if I remember them.
Good luck.
Matt the Raptor Smith.
Hi.
Vincent Def Leopard Watkins.
Hi. Hello.
And me, your host.
Lewis Polecat Powell.
I don't think that's how it works.
Oh man, I don't want to be a polecat.
Does not have a name.
Is polecat a racial slur? Because it sounds kind of like one.
Not. If it is, I retract that nickname.
All right.
It's not a racial slur.
It should be.
It might be ethnic slang, but it doesn't refer to anything racial.
I am already with the direction this conversation's going. Let's take a step back.
Let's go straight into the suggestions from last week. There were 2 on the docket.
Sorry, is somebody shaking a jar full of coins?
It's a dog.
Whose dog?
A dog is shaking a jar full of coins.
Is that your dog, Matt? Because if so, please.
It's obviously Vincent.
No, it's my dog.
Who has animals. He has like 2 dogs and 2 cats and 4 children.
Oh, well, all right.
Thanks, Matt. One of my cats recently died. Thanks for bringing that up. It's real sensitive.
I hear that.
You didn't say anything about it?
Recently, I mean like a year ago.
Well, it takes time to get over that.
You still didn't say anything about it.
Okay.
I think I'm fairly certain I mentioned it before.
Let's go over the suggestions from last week. Let's just repeat what they were for our faithful viewers.
All right. Lewis's suggestion was Welcome to Night Vale, specifically episode 11, but he didn't want us to listen to that one first. He wanted us to listen to some other ones first for context.
Yes.
And appropriately, we will be discussing that on our episode 11.
Ooh.
Now, Lewis, did you plan it that way?
No. There was
But that is a very sort of Night Vale-esque creepiness to that coincidence.
You right now, we're not responding to it yet with your tone of voice.
Right, we're not on that stage of the
Okay, and Hopscotch, what was the other suggestion?
The other suggestion, my suggestion, was a particular thread on the web forum Truth and Beauty Bombs. It starts out as discussion of a webcomic, but kind of veers away from that. And, well, we'll get into that later.
Yeah. So which one should we start with?
Let's start with Welcome to Night Vale.
Okay. I was going to suggest the other way, but, you know,
do that.
I'm just the moderator, so we'll do it my way.
All right.
Who partook of Ben's suggestion?
I did.
I did?
I did.
All right, and I did as well.
All right.
So let's start with the Raptor.
All right.
Yeah, that's you.
I had no idea what I was supposed to get out of this thread. It seemed just like a really normal kind of comic book discussion thread, the kind that I've like read thousands and thousands of on internet forums all over the world. So it just seemed kind of mundane to me, so I didn't really get what was going on or why it was special.
Okay, could you say a little bit more, just for those audience members who didn't take the suggestion, what was so boring in it, but descriptively?
It's just people talking about making movies out of comic books and all the things that can go wrong, or they all seem to be ganging up on this one guy whose name was Justin something. Yeah. But I don't know if that's. It wasn't clear if that was a particular like a trend on the forum to gang up on this guy about comic books, just relentlessly pursuing his opinion about anything that can
About
happen,
Batman.
but mostly about Batman, yeah.
I should point out here, that was Justin's forum.
Okay, so that's more common for people to approach him with questions.
Well, one might expect that the person whose forum it is would be treated with a bit more decorum or respect by the people in the forum.
That's not in my experience on internet forums, but all right.
Not mine either.
Okay. I mean, Ben, on our forums, people are pretty nice to us.
Yeah, well, we attract oddly polite people.
That's fair enough. Okay.
I'm not really sure why.
Def Leppard.
I think my reaction was essentially the same as Matt's. It seemed, it's not that it's boring or anything, but it seemed pretty typical. Like I didn't see what was special about this forum. I mean, they kept sarcastically making fun of Justin's concern about proper Batman continuity. I mean, I guess there was some funny stuff, but nothing really stuck out to me as being particularly funny or funny in a special way.
I guess I will chime in. I enjoyed reading this thread. I probably in part because I know and I'm more familiar with the personalities involved, and so it was reminiscing for me about interacting with these people on the forum when I used to post on that forum. More than just, I mean, I wasn't involved in this thread, but just in general, it was more nostalgia-y for me, I think, than it probably would have been for you two. But when Ben said he was going to recommend a tab thread, I thought it was going to be the one where they found all the avatars, the like little pixel drawings of Batman, and they had like 48 pages of being obsessed with this one guy who made all these like 1,100 varieties of Batman costume.
Oh, that is this thread.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, but that happens later on. That's not in the 10 pages that I suggested.
Okay. I thought, okay, it seemed like it, and then I read what you suggested, we didn't get to it, so I thought maybe you were going to suggest it for that reason.
Okay, there is something special that I got out of this thread, though. It was a feeling that I'd never really had before. It was, when I was reading this thread, I think I gained some empathy for, like, the wives and girlfriends of all of my friends, and because it's like they just hear us endlessly talking about, like, Batman or whatever, and it just goes on and on and on. You know, like,
I've never heard you talk about Batman.
Well, it's not really.
You saved that for your girlfriend?
Yeah, I saved that. No, I said the wives and girlfriends of my friends, not myself.
Yeah, that's true.
You talk about Batman with them.
Yeah.
You save it for your friends' wives and girlfriends.
Well, basically, they're just trapped in the room when I'm talking with my like real life friends. So
Matt, does this mean you want to apologize to Kathleen?
No.
You gained some empathy, and you're not sorry.
Okay. Let's see. Are there any other? Let's see.
All right. So.
Yeah, I think if we had more to say, it would be a good idea to keep Ben from talking for a little while. But given that everybody's response but mine seemed to be, we don't know what was going on with the suggestion. Ben.
Right. Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised by that. I find this thread extremely funny, and moreover, it's a particular type of humor that I enjoy and haven't seen better examples of elsewhere. It's the persistent questioning about Batman. Steve Carey, whose username on this is Professor Stevie Freezy, it was changed to that partway through the thread.
And who is
particular
for having a Saved by the Bell quote of the day blog for a while.
Yeah, he also used to do a webcomic called Poppycock Circus.
Okay, but go ahead. Continue with your...
Yeah, so he has all these questions under the guise of caring about Batman information, but actually just mocking it all. An example here is, he posts, Justin, please settle an argument I have with a good chum of mine. When Batman goes to the South Pole to fight Professor Freezy, he should have a white and light blue costume, right? With bat muffs and bat mittens? Because in the regular costume he would get too cold. I'm not sure how any of you were able to read that post and not be amused by it.
I understand that it's a joke. I mean, I got that.
Yeah, no,
Like,
The response everyone wants for their comedy. I recognized that it was a joke.
yeah, I mean, I understood that.
I see the structure of this.
Yeah.
I don't think Ben thought you mistook it for an actual inquiry.
Well, I don't know, but this, I guess it's kind of, I'm just kind of burnt out on it because I've browsed so many different threads just like this. So, like a Batman discussion in particular was extremely popular, probably in like about the same time this thread was made.
Sorry, but when you say Batman discussion, I am going to take Ben's side on this for a second.
Yeah, I'm not recommending this because I'm very interested in Batman
No,
information.
but that's not even it. It's not a Batman discussion. It's
Right.
just bringing up a list of ridiculous things from Batman to annoy someone who takes Batman kind of seriously. Like, discussion misconstrues the nature of the thread.
Well, I guess that's an accurate representation of the thread.
I mean, because I've seen a lot of like argument, like internet arguments, but this isn't an argument. This is just mockery.
Yeah, like Justin says that the bust of Beethoven being used to open up the Batcave is not canon. And Steve says, Justin, are you referring to the cannon that the Joker used to shoot open the door to the safe in the Gotham Savings and Loan? I know it's not that. It's a bust of Beethoven.
Oh, sorry.
And our listeners who did actually read and listen to all the things suggested will be annoyed if I just read this out loud.
Well, you could pick
Probably
up
stop doing that.
No, do it. Read the parts that you think are funniest. I think it's helping us to get what we didn't get out of it.
Yeah.
Or at least it's
let me open this up and
I don't know. Actually, I do kind of disagree that making fun of people who are obsessed with Batman is not a discussion about Batman, because every time I go over to my friend's house to watch these like direct-to-video Batman movies, all we do is make fun of the movie while it's on. And, like,
does anyone in the room with you take seriously the movie and get upset with you? Or are you guys just
ex-wife
playing MST3K?
It's like MST3K through the lens of people who know a fair bit about Batman already. So
I think, Matt, you seem to be like intentionally ignoring an important element of the dynamic. Like there's one
maybe it's just maybe I'm making a joke and you just don't get it.
It's possible.
I think Lewis recognizes that there is a joke you're making.
I actually don't recognize the joke you're making. It just sounded like you were wrong. Maybe that was a joke. If so, haha.
Well, but it sounds like the point Matt's making is that this isn't different from, or that different from the way jocular conversations by people who actually do care about Batman would go. Like maybe this guy doesn't care at all anything about Batman, but the things he's saying are still the same kinds of jokes that people would make who do know a lot about Batman and actually read Batman comics. Like, I wouldn't take from his comments one way or the other how he feels about Batman. It's kind of irrelevant, I guess, but
No, it has nothing to do with Steve's attitude towards Batman. This is okay.
But
Steve is trolling Justin. This is the structure of the thing. There is
Right, but Matt's saying that's not what's going on isn't different from what goes on between people.
I'm gonna moderate the fuck out of you right now. Hang on.
Yeah, this doesn't have to be about Batman. This could have been about any topic.
Yeah, we get it.
Well, okay. Every example that you and Matt have given is missing the antagonistic element between the participants.
But he's saying it's not that different from conversations that go on all the time anyway. So I mean,
very different.
I guess I don't see why that makes it funnier. It's like, no, you don't get it. This guy actually dislikes the guy he's talking to. He actually is trying to cause negative emotions in the other guy.
So are you guys messing with me? Is that what's going on?
Justin is getting
People are all friends.
Justin is getting trolled for 10 pages in this Batman thread. It's still not fucking funny, okay?
Look, my claim is not that it's funny. I think it's funny, but that's not what I'm trying to argue right now. What I'm trying to argue, Matt, is when you say you've read a bunch of threads where people talk about Batman as an example of why this is not unusual, it makes it sound like you didn't get what was going on here.
No, but they troll each other in those threads.
Fair enough.
Yeah, he's saying this is exactly the kind of stuff that goes on in those threads all the time. People joking around, not taking the questions that people are asking seriously, asking facetious questions, pretending like they don't understand what Batman continuity is, whatever.
There's always one guy that takes it really seriously.
Sorry, what? Matt, you asked a question, I didn't hear it.
I said no. There's always somebody who takes it a lot more seriously than the other guys, and he's getting falling over himself trying to explain this Batman stuff and getting upset about these ridiculous questions, and then they just leave the thread or whatever.
You know what I think is a better example of this same thing is the Def Leppard conversation itself that we had about Maze.
Yeah, that is a similar sort of thing.
What? Is it what conversation?
That's not a public thing, though, so I wasn't able to suggest it.
Yeah.
Wait, what conversation about Maze?
When we had that Maze chat room going, and Vincent was suggesting that a particular room was full of references to Def Leppard.
Yes. Except here's I think a crucial disanalogy between the two. The person that Vincent was trolling did not have the level of awareness adequate to respond to the trolling in the entertaining way. This thread is all about Justin's frustration that he recognizes he's being trolled but still feels like he needs to clarify which ridiculous things are actually proper to the Batman mythology. For me. I don't know if Ben agrees with that, but that's, I think.
And
it is a good
I think
question
I'm less
about
interested in Justin's reaction than you are here.
Sorry?
I think I'm less interested than you in Justin's reaction here.
But that's
I don't know. I think
that's
Justin's reaction is the only thing that makes it interesting, though. Like, he knows he's being trolled, but he's sort of like reverse trolling by going out of his way to be as civil as possible, despite the knowledge that he knows he's being trolled.
Yeah, I mean, it's like only having half the joke without him there, Ben. Like, if it was just Stevie posting this list of questions, it would be like having the Three Stooges, but like without the guy getting his eyes poked. The other dude's just doing the poking motion.
That actually sounds kind of funny.
It probably wouldn't be less funny than a Three Stooges short as it is.
That example, if you're going for a paradigm instance of something being funny, I guess, is my mistake there.
Isn't that shocking? Have you ever seen, have you watched a lot of Three Stooges shorts?
I've watched, 2, which is enough.
I've watched a few.
Yeah, they're so not funny. It's unbelievable how important these guys are. I mean, they really are influential characters in the history of comedy and film and all that stuff, and it's just awful. They are so terrible. It's hard to imagine anyone could do better.
Be funny. Standards of humor are a lot higher now.
Do you find Laurel and Hardy funny at all, Vincent?
I haven't seen Laurel and Hardy since I was a little kid. I know I enjoyed them then. I'm kind of afraid to watch them now. But I think, from what I remember, there's more style and subtlety with Laurel and Hardy than with the Three Stooges.
Yeah, no, that was my suspicion, was that Laurel and Hardy are either going to be doing something different enough to be interesting, or just doing a very good job of whatever the Three Stooges are attempting.
Mm.
Okay, so, man, I've read a lot of discussions about Batman is the weirdest way to dismiss this thread that I could have imagined.
That's kind of a misrepresentation of what Matt's saying.
I feel like if
He's saying he's read a lot of similar discussions about Batman.
Yeah, but I would like to see one of those.
I want to go back to the transcript later and look for the part where he said, "This seemed really uninteresting to me because I've read a lot of internet discussions of Batman before."
That's not his full assessment.
I agree. I'm just saying it isn't like I was quoting. Or whatever
Maybe
it's called when you quote but don't care.
Maybe you had to like these guys' webcomics to think they were funny. I don't know.
Wait, do you guys?
I don't think any of their webcomics are really relevant to this, even though the thread starts out being about one of their webcomics.
Yeah. I feel like Ben the. Yeah.
I feel like maybe I should have found an example of this sort of thing that wasn't as Batman-centric.
Good luck.
I don't know. It didn't feel that unusual to me. I think a better suggestion, if you want the viewers to be able to understand something, maybe just say any viewer who wants to understand this should contact you and have like a half-hour conversation with you.
Or you could, I mean, if it was going to be a thing, like a conversation we had in the chat hangouts, you could always just put it in Pastebin or something to make it available for people to read.
You might have the same Batman problem, though. With whatever we're talking about, people get hung up on the subject matter. I think we're dealing with small enough numbers that we could tell anyone who's watching, contact Ben, just talk to him for half an hour about anything, and you will probably run into some instances of the very thing we're talking about.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Ben would enjoy it.
Are you saying that Ben based his whole personality around this Batman thread?
Around Batman.
No, his whole
yes, that's why I suggested it.
Yeah,
if it was his whole personality, they wouldn't have to talk for half an hour to get an example of it. I'm just trying to say, if you talk for half an hour, you'll probably see some example of it.
I just want to say I'm with Ben in the following regard. If you guys have some cache of like internet threads that are very similar to this that you'd like to share, I would be keen to read them because I feel like they'd be very entertaining, and I'm surprised that I don't stumble across them.
And I don't. I'm not saying I've read stuff similar to it. I'm just saying that's what Matt's saying, and I understand what he's saying.
Yeah, so final judgments. Or whatever.
I got to give it a thumbs down. I don't see any reason to ever refer to this.
What if you need to refer to the time that Ben made a suggestion that you thought was a very bad suggestion?
I've got a lot of examples for that, I think.
He's got enough.
Matt?
I guess I give it a thumbs up.
What?
Just so people will argue about whether or not they've... Well, if you've never had a conversation about Batman where one guy is trolling another guy, or you've never seen internet trolling ever before in your life, maybe you should...
This is a good example of the phenomenon of trolling.
This is not the paradigm example I would choose for that. I'm not sure what would be.
Maybe that person who took a picture of Neil deGrasse Tyson using a laptop on the subway and called him a nerd. And then everybody on the internet got very upset with him.
Well, that's too recent. It hasn't stood the test of time yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Not like this thread from 2006.
I hope the video right now is a close-up of Vincent's hand on the phone, doing weird hand motions.
No, it's my hand on the dog.
Dog phone, same thing. Okay, Ben, do you thumbs up or thumbs down?
Well, I was going to thumbs down it just because this clearly did not succeed in communicating what I had in mind. But then Matt gave it a surprise thumbs up, and that touched my heart. I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
I think Matt's trolling us. I think Matt is trying to create right now a better example of the thing you were trying to suggest.
That wouldn't be an example of the thing.
Because it's not about Batman.
Right, exactly.
Right, it's not about any superheroes.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a thumbs up, if for no other reason than I enjoyed going back and rereading this thread.
That's a terrible reason to give a thumbs up.
I know.
We're not trying to list things that are good.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it.
We're not trying to list things we enjoy either.
Oh, then maybe Vincent. I shouldn't let the cat out of the bag on Vincent's attitude towards my suggestion. But
We'll find out shortly enough.
So, welcome to Night Vale.
yes. All right. Let's start with Hopscotch.
All right, so this is an episode that I had heard before, but I did go back and listen to it again for purposes of the suggestion.
Now, did you listen to multiple other episodes beforehand, or did you, since you're a
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Just, to be sure.
Okay. And what episodes did you listen to?
I think the two immediately preceding it, so episodes 9 and 10.
So those are Pyramid and Feral Dogs.
Yes, I think.
Well, let's actually start. We'll have everybody say what episodes they listened to, and then we'll go back through for judgments. So, Matt?
I also listened to 9, 10, and 11.
Okay, Vincent?
I listened to 1, 2, and 11.
Interesting.
How much do those choices matter? I kind of thought your suggestion was just episode 11, but get some context first.
Yeah. I mean, there are some. I probably shouldn't talk too much, but there are some running gags, and I don't know where they all start and occur.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be some references in 11 that make more sense if you've heard 2, but not if you haven't. But I didn't. I mean, the reason I didn't have specific other episodes to recommend is because I really just wanted 11 and then with some background context. But we should less hearing from me now. Hopscotch, tell us about.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what made episode 11 stand out to you. It seemed to me to be a fairly typical example of Welcome to Night Vale.
Okay, maybe
I feel like there are hundreds of forum threads about Batman just like it.
Maybe for our listeners who didn't listen to a podcast on my suggestion, you could say what constitutes a typical episode of Night Vale.
People know Welcome to Night Vale. Okay, it's a podcast.
You're much better known than Night Vale.
It's ostensibly this small town community radio serve thing. Well, not, but deals with a lot of horror themes. There's weird happenings in this town that the guy on the radio just reports on. In this episode, they have an ad for wheat and wheat byproducts, and then a little while after that, the radio announcer gives a warning that you should not eat wheat and wheat byproducts because they have all transformed into deadly serpents.
Okay.
And this podcast has a huge following on Tumblr, in case that matters to people.
Okay. Let me interject real quickly with this. Part of the reason I chose a specific episode was just because I felt like it wouldn't be a very cohesive discussion if everybody was listening to just a random set of Night Vale episodes.
That's fair.
So feel free to talk about Night Vale generally and not just search for what made this episode super special. But
right. Yeah, in general, I think it's a decent podcast. Not one of my favorite ones, but I think it's doing some things right. I think it's a very good premise for a podcast, certainly.
Okay, Matt?
I feel like the thrust, the main idea of the podcast is just to be super weird, right? And not I'm really envious of their position of just being able to be weird but not having to be funny or insightful or It's like, oh, that was really weird, and then they go on to the next bit. I mean, if it's specifically supposed to be like laugh out loud funny, I didn't get it.
Yeah, it isn't really. I feel like a lot of listeners kind of want it to be, and so they latch onto running bits and catchphrases.
Right, like
but that's kind of
I think it's a good example of, like, you know, if you wanted to do like a comedy podcast, but instead you don't really want to do comedy, you just want to make something that's really fucking weird. But it's kind of it seems kind of lazy to me, because it's not like Twin Peaks where they had to be really weird and also have like a drama with characters that you cared about. It's sort of like it's a low risk podcast. I wouldn't say that it's not worth listening to if you are in the mood for hearing something bizarre. I don't know how they got like hundreds of episodes out of that.
Does it really have hundreds of episodes?
I think it's in the hundreds.
No, they're only at 50.
There's a lot.
I think there's 50 and 2 live episodes right now.
Okay. I guess I imagine that list being longer.
And I get into some ongoing storyline stuff later on. I mean, I guess there's a bit of that from the beginning.
And Vincent?
Yeah,
You love
accidentally let the cat out of the bag here, because I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to make it for this podcast, so I tried to communicate my opinions on the subject beforehand and let everyone know that I did not care for Night Vale, which I think Matt did a pretty good job of expressing what I found problematic with it, which is it seems to be the same joke over and over. I found it hard to listen to one episode of it. And I started at the beginning because I thought, you know, from hearing people talk about it and the premise that it was going to be something funny, and I would just watch all the way up to episode 11, but by the time I reached the end of episode 2, I wasn't going to watch any more than I had to, and I went to episode 11. With episode 11, I even found it hard to keep listening to the show. Like, my mind just kept wandering because I just thought it was so boring. I don't understand what the appeal of the show is, because it seems like, okay, there's this community plagued by paranormal stuff, and this guy's reporting on it, and he's doing it in a fairly normal tone of voice, as if these are not extraordinary events, and that's that. That's your show. That's 20 minutes of that, listening to it, and then over and over. I just couldn't believe it.
I think
this is totally. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think it appeals to people who like just like hearing about like the idea of something, and then they don't want to hear the details. It's like, just give me the short version. Like, there could have been a story with that whole feral dogs thing, or I mean, they sort of almost get into some story elements with the weed and wheat byproducts, but it's just, you know, news point bulletins about what's going on. So it's, but it is supposed
to be. It's supposed to be funny, right? I mean, that wheat and wheat byproducts thing, obviously that's supposed to be, that's not just weird, it's supposed to be silly. If they were supposed to just be weird, they wouldn't be saying wheat and wheat byproducts. They'd be talking about God knows what. I mean, I don't know, some magical artifact or some strange chemical or something that would plausibly start a storyline about then converting into serpents and being a problem. And wheat and wheat byproducts is a very silly thing to suddenly become dangerous. I think it's supposed to be funny, and presumably people who like it find it funny, but I just don't get it. And to be honest, it's totally irrational, but it's like it makes me angry to listen to it because I feel like it's so bad that
I don't know why you're angry. It's because it's lazy. That it's like straddling this line. It's like, well, I want to come up with these ideas, but I don't want to flesh them out, so I'll just make them a news bulletin show, right? It's like the short headlines on The Onion, only not funny.
It could be. I don't know if that's what... I mean, again, there's no good reason to be angry about not liking something that other people like, and I don't know that I generally do. But, yeah, there is something about this that just seems so objectively bad that I feel like I don't know, like everyone is being dishonest and pretending otherwise. But I'm not saying that's really the case. That's just kind of my emotional reaction to it. This is so bad. Kind of like maybe country music.
Hey.
Like you hear country music where they're doing the fake accents and stuff, and it's just like, God damn, you motherfuckers don't really talk with those accents. I've heard you talk. It's totally fake. You all know that you're putting on these stupid fake accents to sing these dumb fucking songs. How in the world can you pretend like that's an important part? Like you have an entire genre of music based around doing a funny fucking accent, you pieces of shit. Like that's kind of the feeling I have about Night Vale.
Vincent, you were just channeling Holden Caulfield there a little bit. That was a Catcher in the Rye reference for any of our listeners who don't have high school English under the belt.
Oh, that Holden Caulfield.
Isn't he that's the one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, I was saying that like I was thinking of a different one.
Okay. I was worried that there was a different one that I was getting wrong. Okay, so Vincent is angry, Matt is unenamored, and Ben thinks it's a decent podcast.
Yeah, well, I will say it's true that it isn't really. I mean, I was going to say it isn't a humor podcast, but it is really. It's just it isn't really trying to put in a lot of jokes. Like saying that every episode is the same joke is true to some extent. It puts in like humorous elements, but it isn't trying to just make you laugh a lot of times.
Yeah, I think I probably shouldn't step in quite yet. Keep going.
Yeah, so the initial announcement about wheat byproducts, well, not the announcement, the ad for awareness of wheat and wheat byproducts as things to eat. I thought that was pretty funny. After that, the rest of it in this episode was not particularly humorous.
Oh,
And there was one line that actually annoyed me when he's talking about the wheat and wheat byproducts having turned into snakes. He gives the line, how did it start? If you have wheat or wheat byproducts in your home, you are almost certainly already dead. With weird pauses like that. I have no idea why he delivered the line that way.
I had a problem with a lot of his delivery, which I guess is strange. Most people, I guess, who like the show think that the guy who does a very good job with it, and he does seem to be a big part of the show with his delivery. But yeah, it seemed in a lot of places clear to me that it was written by a different person than the person who delivers it, and the person who's delivering it wasn't maybe on the same page, it seemed like sometimes.
maybe he was trolling the writer by doing it wrong.
No, they didn't mention Batman at all, so I don't think he could have been trolling.
We need to come up with some term.
Idea.
We need to come up with some term that's, analogous to trolling, but for conversations that don't involve Batman.
Yeah. We could call it non-Batman related trolling.
That's a nice
Strictly hypothetical concept.
NBT.
hypothetical concept. Yeah, I don't know why we need such a term. It's not like it ever happens.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. Okay, have you ever met somebody, I guess it's usually women, who think that things that are cute are funny? Like they lump things that are cute and things that are funny into the same category, and they think like being cute is humor?
SuggestCast
Yeah, okay.
not endorse any particular views about the gender distribution of...
Well, I'm just saying I don't see it in a lot of men, but that's my own personal experience.
All right, that's all I'm saying, is Matt's views are Matt's alone.
Right.
Except that
I'm willing to accept that.
I agree with Matt's views here.
But I guess this could be for like a person who lumps being weird in with being funny, like in that same sort of style, like, oh, that's weird, that must be hilarious.
Sort of like post-Aqua Teen Adult Swim cartoons.
Yeah, like, look how weird we are. That's
There were two things that don't go together. We put them in the same room. What? Like that.
yeah. I don't know. I think that you could get a big fan base of people. Like everybody who mistakes being weird for being funny would like subscribe to this podcast and think it's the most hilarious shit they've ever heard.
Although, I could see similar comments about things I do like, but they're not things I think are funny, but where people could probably fairly say, I confuse being weird with being profound or meaningful or something. Like, if someone took, like, Mulholland Drive or something like that, which is one of my favorite movies, and I certainly do probably like it just because it's so weird in a lot of places, but, why does being weird make it good? I don't know. I could say some good things about it, but I think it would not be unfair for someone to say that they think it's terrible, and I'm confusing weirdness with goodness.
Well,
Goodness.
Vincent, do
Okay,
you believe
I see
that
your point.
Vincent, do you believe that because Mulholland Drive is weird, it's funny?
No, I'm saying it's not.
Well,
It's
Hell and
not
Drive
humor.
It has a lot of like extremely terrifying scenes in it.
Yeah, it does have funny stuff, but I don't think the weirdness is funny in Mulholland Drive. It's usually more terrifying or suspenseful or something than funny.
Yeah.
It is kind of funny when Billy Ray Cyrus gets in a fight with that dude, and everyone's pretending like he's not Billy Ray Cyrus.
Okay, I don't remember Mulholland Drive well enough to comment on that. But are you in being...
Oh, it's Billy Ray Cyrus has this really small part. He's just some dude that the director's wife is sleeping with.
David Lynch's wife?
No, the director in the movie, Adam, I can't remember his last name.
Oh, okay.
All right,
But anyway...
I think we've run out of bad things to say about Night Vale, so...
Well, but what did you think of the weather segments?
Oh, the rap song in episode 11, was that episode 11?
No, 11 wasn't a rap song. It's almost country-ish music, I feel like. It's not, it's not the country Vincent was complaining about, but it has like a Hank Williams vibe.
I guess it was episode 10 that had the hip-hop song. That was pretty good.
I don't understand why that's part of the show.
So
Because
that
people like music.
no, that's it's a really great advertising thing, because then the guy who wrote the song should be like, hey, my music was featured on Night Vale. You should listen to it.
Weather. Now,
And
we
then
should explain to
people
the
like, oh,
listeners. On Welcome to Night Vale, each episode they have a segment where they do the weather, but instead of talking about weather or anything, they just play a song.
Right, because there's no weather in Night Vale. It's
Yeah.
Well, actually, often the news they report is about the weather. They often talk about the weather quite a bit outside the weather segment.
I mean, is there a real justification for the music there, or is it just kind of like on Saturday Night Live, where it's like, maybe we can get a different group of people to watch our show by putting something completely unrelated in the middle of it?
Well, let me see. Night Vale FAQ.
Oh, Jack's here.
What?
Jack, what do you think of Night Vale there?
Oh, Lewis, you should introduce and give a nickname.
Oh, yeah.
This is Jack Tater Tot something, Master. And he is. This is his first time on SuggestCast, I think.
But he's a longtime viewer. He's left us some very kind messages in the comment sections of previous episodes, along with some helpful comments on how to improve the show.
Thank you.
You joined in the middle of our discussion of Welcome to Night Vale, specifically episode number 11, but also in general.
Well, I haven't seen it, so I'll remain silent.
Oh, you can make things up.
He's not Barry.
Have you listened to
He still
any
has
of
the ability
Welcome
to
to Night Vale?
I didn't even know it was audio, so I don't think so.
Yeah, probably not. Then listening to it very quickly gives you the impression that it's audio. So, Lewis, is there anything more you wanted to say about why you suggested this?
Yeah, I have some things I want to say. Number one, I agree that it is not funny. I mean, occasionally there
are some funny.
Yeah. So, for instance, in the wheat and wheat byproducts episode, like I laugh out loud every time he does, or not every time. I mean, both the first time I listened to it, when I listened to it in preparation for tonight, and just whenever I think about it, the bit where he says he's listing all the different uses for wheat and wheat byproducts, and at one point he goes, "And if you need to do X, we have something for you, and it's byproducts." And I find that structure of joke very funny. The like awkwardly stilted phrasing being repeated unnecessarily.
Yeah, it was a good line.
So like there are lines like that that I actually laugh at. But that's like I know it gets categorized as humor, and I'm sure there are people who are, as you guys described, like whose response to "oh, that's so random" is to think that it's funny, and so like "oh, it's weird, haha," or I guess Ben described some of them as wanting to convince themselves that it was funny, but not really believing it.
Well, I'm thinking of like the people who listen to it but express their fandom by like quoting catchphrases and kind of desperation. Like, yeah, that feels great. All hail the glow cloud. That sort of thing.
Yeah. I had a number of friends recommend it to me. And I responded, I think, the first time I tried listening to it, very much the way that Matt and Vincent responded. But maybe closer to Matt, because Matt doesn't seem to have as much rage in his soul about it as Vincent does. I wasn't, like, angered by it, but I was... The part where Vincent said it was really hard for him to, like, focus and, like, pay attention to a whole episode. I'll come back to that in a second. But... you know, very much the idea that it's got like on some level it's one joke, and the joke is this guy is saying ridiculous stuff, but more or less constantly deadpan. Right? Like that's the basic structure of the joke or the trick. I guess it's a one-trick pony, and the one trick is guy is describing crazy stuff, completely deadpan. Does that feel accurate as a description?
Yeah.
Okay. What happened was one day I had a lot of dishes to do, and so I figured I would give it a try because so many friends had recommended it, and so I put it on. And the reason that episode 11 is the one that I recommended in particular wasn't because I thought 11 was like super special in any like intrinsic way. 11 was just the one where my attitude towards the show flipped. It might have been because it was the 11th episode I listened to, not because of anything about that specific episode. I mean, there are things I like about that episode a lot. I almost recommended 10, and I found it interesting that Vincent listened to episodes 1 and 2, and everybody else listened to 9, 10, 11, because one of the few places where I think it illustrates that it's less lazy than Matt was describing is the relationship between episode 1 and episode 10. Because in episode 1, they make this mention of this really weird dog park that has been constructed and no humans or dogs are allowed to go in there. And you might see cloaked figures in there, but stay away. And when I first listened to that, I was like, that's so random and ridiculous, and it's such a throwaway idea for like the episode. But then episode 10... is all about a roving pack of feral dogs terrorizing Night Vale. And they don't ever spell it out, I don't think. But I'm pretty sure those are the dogs that are in that forbidden dog park. And so I think there's like more connections than they pronounce or make explicit in the show. And so now getting back to the part where I was, where I want to take Vincent's, like it was really hard to listen to and I couldn't pay attention and turn it into a positive. Like the narrative structures here, for reasons having to do with the things that are happening, like the weirdness or out there-ness of the plot elements, are much harder to follow on autopilot than most standard narratives or joke structures or whatever else you'd have on a podcast. I find this podcast, among all the podcasts that I listen to, the one that requires the most attention in order to, like, follow. And I think it's because I can't, like, fill in blanks if I'm distracted the same way. Because all I have is that the template is that something weird happened, and he's going to talk about it in a normal voice. But I have no idea what the weird thing is that's going to happen, or how it's going to get even weirder over the course of the episode. Okay, so that was me just talking a bunch about my situation with respect to Night Vale. I don't know if does that illuminate anything for you guys?
Well, I still don't get...
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. we'll
Okay,
just keep
I'll go
running
ahead.
that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think this discussion has illuminated for me why it is that I haven't been listening to Welcome to Night Vale lately. Like, I listened to a whole lot of it and then just kind of fell out of it, and I think I understand why better now.
Is it things that Matt and Vincent were saying?
Kind of. It's basically that I like the humorous elements in it when they come up, but they aren't all that dense, and the other aspects of it, the weird narrative parts, get less compelling when you've heard a lot of it.
Yeah. So
I feel like after you've listened to this guy on the news a lot of times, he becomes a character you can identify. He's not just this voice reading things in a monotone. He's a person you've learned things about, and then the central joke kind of falls flat at that point.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? That he's a person you've learned things about?
Like, basically that he's a more fleshed out character. Like, you're not listening to it and the joke is there's weird things happening and some guy on the news is just reporting on them straight-faced. Instead, it's more soap opera-ish. This guy on the news is talking and, oh, I remember his relationship with his boyfriend and how he must be feeling right now because of these things that are going on in his town. It draws you into the world in a way that's a positive in a lot of ways. Probably for most listeners that actually becomes a good thing.
But it conflicts with the framing.
Yeah.
Except they start that very early in the podcast. I think they add characterization for him almost immediately.
Yeah, they put in hooks for, like, his relationship with Carlos, certainly.
Right, yeah. It's interesting. I think Ben's listened to more of it than I have, because I didn't know that he got all the way to a relationship with Carlos at the point where
Oh, sorry, spoiler warning.
That's fine.
No, we're supposed to do spoilers on SuggestCast.
Yeah, it's weird for the person who suggested it to get it spoiled.
Yeah.
I could see how that would be somewhat problematic, but like if you think of Jon Stewart, for instance, you know, he's very fleshed out as a character too compared to your typical news anchor and doesn't interfere with The Daily Show or make him seem less real.
Yeah, I think The Daily Show has more range than Welcome to Night Vale.
I also think, and it's interesting because everybody was trying to put it. I mean, maybe not everybody, but more or less, each of you in your discussions of this tried to put it in the box humor, and then described why it failed as humor. And I think maybe the reason I have of the four of us the most positive reaction to it is because even though there are occasionally jokes that I think are funny, I'm not trying to interpret it through the lens of, like, this is supposed to be funny.
Mm.
Like, I think their aim is just to be unsettling/weird. And if sometimes that involves things that are humorous, that's fine. But I don't think the creators are aiming for laugh out loud jokes or anything, or even.
Well, no, when they say we buy products, that's they're trying to tell a joke.
Sorry, I'm not saying that it's devoid of humor.
It has jokes.
Like, an action movie isn't about telling jokes, even though there can be jokes in an action movie.
I see. You're saying the general repeated concept that we're talking about, how it's the same thing over and over. That thing is not supposed to be a joke.
Yeah, it's or at least if it is humorous, it's incidental to their purpose.
But see, do you find it unsettling when you? I mean, I don't find it unsettling either because it's. I don't know how to have any kind of emotional reaction to it when it's not. It's not like a. I don't know, like a David Lynch movie or something where you've got these characters and then things go off the chain. It's just an incessant. Here's this community. It has a lot of people in it, and a lot of weird stuff happens. I mean, do you like identify with the people in the community, or
no?
You're not thinking, oh man, I hope that farmer.
What's to be what's
one all right?
Man, this is a baffling.
Yeah, I mean, what's unsettling about it?
I don't know that I find it unsettling. I think that might be what they're aiming for. I'm not sure that it achieves it.
Oh.
I think if you were to ask them what their principal inspiration was, it would be something like H.P. Lovecraft and Borges. And I mean, I don't know. And I wouldn't describe it as H.P. Lovecraft meets Borges because that's too generous in many ways. And I don't like that. But like the element from Lovecraft is this like eldritch horror, like things are stranger than you expect them to be. They are consistently outside of the normal scope. And then from Borges, it's the thing that Ben loves about Borges, where he's like, I'll write a book where the main thing in the book is somebody telling you what 100 different books are that I didn't write. Like
tangential contact with the thing.
Yeah. So I think in some sense, like what Matt was describing as like it's not fleshed out, it's not like it's being done very lazy. I think this is independent of whether Matt's right that it is in fact lazy of them to do it this way. Like I think that's by design that it has this like we're scratching the surface of these things rather than picking one premise and running with it. And then I think they want to just be exploring the space of strange or weird or hard to reconcile in your mind premises.
Explicit breadth first search, like the SCP Foundation.
I don't know what the SCP Foundation is.
Ben,
No,
I know we've talked about SCP to you.
Sorry?
Well, it's a very generic sounding name. You might not remember it. It's that kind of horror wiki site. It's a bunch of descriptions about the containment procedures for these magical artifacts and such.
Right. Yeah. I don't think I really spent any time looking at it, but I do now vaguely remember you guys discussing it.
Well, you should read just a few hundred of them.
Okay, well, maybe if you make that your suggestion, and then
I already have my suggestion picked out.
But so anyway, that's part of what I like. I mean, in some sense, I think it's trying to defy genre, and that's part of what made me want to recommend Night Vale, is because I don't 100% know what it's up to, but I had sort of discounted that it was up to trying to make me laugh as like its primary aim. Though, with Vincent, I do agree with you that it's clear that they chose wheat and wheat byproducts for the humor of the specificity of that phrasing. So it's not that I think they're avoiding humor. I just think that that's not. I don't think that they're just telling jokes, and then it happens that a lot of them are shitty. I think fewer of the things they're doing are telling jokes.
Well, I'd say I'm interested to hear you say that, because if you hadn't said that, if you had come on here and said, no, guys, this really is funny, I don't think there would have been any kind of discussion here. It would have just been like, fuck you, you're ridiculous, that is not funny. So it makes it more interesting to me that the purpose is not humor. Listening to it, I would not have guessed that the fandom didn't think it was funny. I mean, it didn't make sense to me any way other than as a joke, but just like an unfunny joke. But I still don't totally understand what it is then that... I mean, I hear you drew the connection between the dog park and then some wild dogs later, but do you really get like a storyline then going in your... I mean, are you like following and you want to see what happens next, or
No.
Is this just so unlike anything else that you like that you can't put it in normal terms, what you're getting out of it.
It's more the second thing. I mean, like, so I do find it interesting when there are hints of connections, especially because I like that they don't, from my perspective, feel the need to handhold for the listener, right? So like, it's nobody listened to this week to both episode 1 and episode 9, but it was only a thing that occurred to me when I was listening to the discussion. It wasn't like a thing that I had been thinking about saying. Otherwise, I would have suggested listening to those 2 episodes in particular. But like, I feel like a lot of stuff gives you way too much hand-holding, and so I kind of like that. Like, there are these connections that you might notice, and then think to yourself, "Oh, I'll bet that was intentional." And maybe they even planned that when they came up with this dog park thing, that they knew like some number of episodes down the line they would have a dog attack episode. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe somebody just went back and was like, "Oh, that's a thread I can pick up." Or maybe I'm reading into it and it's nothing there, and I'm just sort of being too genteel in my readings of things.
Can I break in here and say something really obnoxious?
I'll allow it for a minute.
I joined this late, so I should actually ask. Lewis, you are the moderator, right?
I am.
You sound very different than you do on the other episodes.
That's because I'm not Barry.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, sometimes we have a...
Brian?
Sometimes Lewis uses a different voice on here.
Lipdraut? What name would Simon know him by?
Biovis.
Okay, that's Biovis, not me.
All right.
No, it is Lewis.
Okay, it's me in my Biovis incarnation instead of my normal incarnation.
So,
Not me.
am I talking to real Lewis or simulated Lewis?
I'm a mixture of real Lewis and Ben's simulation of Lewis at the moment.
All right.
That means it's the real Lewis. Simulated Lewis would never say that.
Cut the baby in twain.
You broke symmetry. Well,
Hey, was that the thing you wanted to step in and say, or?
no, that was my reaction to you revealing that you were the real Lewis.
No, I meant, you said, can you break in and say something obnoxious?
Oh, no, my obnoxious thing was to draw this around to being about poorly planned comics because...
Nope. All right, yep, disallowed. Nope, yep, stop, disallowed.
Wait, what if he recommends, or I'm sorry, what if he suggests?
We get to suggestions, he can suggest poorly planned comics.
I don't think I'm allowed to suggest, am I?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you're here.
All right.
But
anyone can suggest anything.
Not during the phase where we're discussing other things.
But
Just
you've already all read it.
hang on.
Yeah, ideally.
But this is for the sake of our many viewers.
Okay, Simon, I'm going to have to ask you to hold all questions until later.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So anyway, the reason I recommend it is because I think...
You mean suggested?
Yeah. I also maybe recommend it. Anyway.
Well, you shouldn't have. That's not what this is for.
Probably getting close to time for the thumbs up, thumbs downs on it. But I think the last thing I want to say is this. One time Ben and I were doing a podcast where we had to talk about alternate genres, and there was this question that we came up with during it, like whether there are like genres of fiction that are designed to provoke emotional reactions other than specifically laughter or fear. Right? Are you remembering this, Ben?
Yeah, vaguely. I haven't listened to that one in a long time.
And I feel like this is trying to be... I mean, I feel like everybody wants to pigeonhole it to be like, oh, is it telling a narrative that I'm supposed to be invested in, or is it trying to make me laugh, as though those are like the two options? And I kind of think it's interesting because I think of it as trying to carve out an additional space outside of those. And I find that space interesting, but I also do find it something that requires a lot of mindfulness to actually follow because it's not easily slottable into categories that I'm already familiar with. So that was why I recommended it. But now I'll let you guys give your Caesarean judgments with your feed me to the lions or not.
All right, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I think discussing it has been interesting and enlightening, and this is something that I might refer back to in the future.
All right, so thumbs up from Hopscotch.
Yeah, and I should also say I think 3 episodes was the right amount to suggest here.
I think some people think it was too much. Raptor, I don't know if you know this, but you are muted.
I'm aware. I guess I would give it a thumbs up. I agree with your assessment that it's trying to carve out a space outside of just humor or building a narrative, but I think that the space it's trying to carve is just being weird, which I really don't think is enough to stand on for as many episodes as it has. But I would recommend it for that express purpose of just being weird.
Do you read a lot of Lovecraft?
I have in the past, but it was many years ago.
His goal was just to show people something that's really weird.
Lovecraft?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I'll say this. And I won't say this. We're done with me saying things. All right.
He's like, check it out. This thing is so weird. Oh my God, you can't even. I don't even know how to point to it. It's so weird.
They're not Vincent.
I'm having a real tough time deciding my thumbs up or thumbs down here, and I'll tell you, I could see referring to this in the future as something that has an appeal that I don't understand that other people get, which is not the same as something I don't like that other people like. There's plenty of stuff that I don't like that other people like, but like I get it. I can see, even if I think it's stupid or they're stupid, whatever, I can see this is what they like about it, whereas this really does seem to be something I completely don't understand. Like, if this is not just bad comedy, I really don't get, and talking about it hasn't clarified for me at all what exactly it is that people are getting from this. So that does make it kind of interesting and something I might refer to in the future. On the other hand, I just think it's so tedious to listen to. I don't think I could ever, in good conscience, suggest that someone else should listen to it. But I guess in terms of cultural, I guess I'll give it a thumbs up.
Can I ask you a question? Can I get you to clarify something?
Yeah.
I don't remember what code name you're using here.
Def Leppard.
You said you had an impression that it was primarily intended to be funny, and Lewis disagrees, but can't really specify what it exactly is as the sort of the point of the thing.
I'm happy to go with Matt's assessment that what it's doing is trying to be weird, and then maybe diverging from Matt on whether or not that's enough to sustain the project.
By way of a reference point, we could say that Poorly Planned Comics is mostly trying to be funny.
Hang on.
I think that is relevant.
As the moderator, let me tell you what you're not allowed to do, Simon. You're not allowed to make everything about Poorly Planned Comics. In fact,
He's only tried to make one thing about Poorly Planned Comics so far.
And that's this episode.
That is,
Yeah.
however, 100% of his contributions to the episode have been that or confusion.
That's not true. No, he's been saying some things.
I think just by walking in the door, he's contributed to this episode. I mean, that's a surprise in itself. People are watching, all of a sudden, bam, who's this person? What's he up to? What are his goals?
All right.
There's like some...
Thumbs up. I give a thumbs up as well.
Just trying to be weird.
The conversation that we got out of it, and the interesting array of
I
reactions.
can't believe that Welcome to Night Vale.
What?
I can't believe Welcome to Night Vale just got cleared for a suggestion on this show.
4 thumbs up.
That's not saying to people that's good.
Yeah.
I know what it means.
Okay. What I can't believe is your reaction you're having when you were the last person to vote, basically, and you voted in favor.
I know. I
You
feel
cast the
complicit in the
tie-breaking
crime
vote.
we've all committed.
I guess I'm the headmaster of the crime or whatever. All right. Time for new suggestions. Hopscotch.
I think Jack had one.
Come to Jack in turn. We go in the order of the pictures on the bottom of my screen. Hopscotch is up first.
All right, so I'm suggesting a card game. I'm suggesting that you play it with someone. It's a 3-player game, so you're going to need 2 other people. Lewis, I think you've played this one before. I don't think anyone else has here. It's called Win-Lose Banana.
Oh my god. Okay.
So Lewis has played this one before.
Yes, Ben, I have. With you.
It's a game played with 3 cards. They have identical backs, but the front side, one of them is win, one is lose, and one is banana. So these cards get dealt out face down to each of the 3 players. Everybody.
Can I interrupt you for a second? No, I don't eat bananas because of my low-carb diet. Is that going to be a problem with this game?
No.
No, there's a workaround for that, which is
Okay.
the rules don't require you to eat a banana.
Also, for religious reasons, I never tell people no.
I don't know 2 people.
Yes, you do.
Sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
Ben, continue saying the rules, and then we'll have people object to them.
Alright, so these cards get handed out randomly. Everybody looks at their own. Then the person with the card saying win reveals it. That person wins if they can guess which of the other 2 people has the banana. Now, both those people, the one with the card saying lose and the one with the card saying banana, want to be chosen by the person with the win card. They can't reveal their cards, but they can try to convince the person that they have the banana by, for example, saying, you should pick me, I'm the banana. And the person with the card saying win needs to try to work out which of them to choose. If they pick the one with the banana, then both those people win. If they pick the one with the card saying lose, that person wins.
Okay. That is Ben's.
That's how you play win, lose, banana.
That's Ben's suggestion: is to play win, lose, banana.
Yeah. Now you could order this game from the publisher, Asmati Games, online. You might be able to construct your own version of it at home, though, if you don't want to spend $1 plus shipping.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, shipping's expensive.
Okay, so that's
kind of reminds me of that. What's that game you guys play where you say check back and forth?
Mind chess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun game.
Maybe I'll suggest mind chess.
Well, mind chess is entirely skill. This has a component of luck to it.
All right. Next up is the Raptor. You are muted, Raptor.
Which one? Oh, man.
That's to conserve bandwidth. My suggestion is the movie Wayne's World.
All right.
Should we eat it? What should we do with it?
Watch it.
Okay, just checking. All right, Simon. Oh, wait, Tater Tot. That's your code name.
Yes.
Tater Tot, do you have a suggestion for us?
I guess just for you, since you're the only one who hasn't read it completely, I think.
It narrated like 80% of it or something.
Not actually that much.
Yeah, I know.
But I think you should read the rest of Poorly Planned Comics because the opinions that you and Watkins gave on Welcome to Night Vale were like just a mirror image of the opinions that you have about Poorly Planned Comics, almost down to the last detail. It just. So
you don't feel that this is a derivative suggestion of my Night Vale suggestion?
Well, I mean, it's one you're seeing from the other side.
Wait, it's a mirror image.
From the other side of the mirror?
No, I guess Vince and I swapped our attitudes between the two? Is that
right?
Okay.
Right. Yeah, he felt that it was something interesting and difficult to pigeonhole, and you felt it was infrequently funny and lazy, and that there was not really enough of a meaningful narrative to connect with the characters and so on.
I'm not trying to use the word lazy because you seem to go to a great deal of effort to prevent people from enjoying it rather than...
Actually, as a follow-up on that, if you're suggesting Poorly Planned Comics, will the archives currently randomly send people to Homestuck instead?
No, it's not random. There's just one page that you press the next button and it goes to a page in Homestuck instead of the proper comic.
Okay, I think
I will have difficulty reading the entirety if at some point when clicking next, I stop reading your comic. Is it the last page? Because if so, then...
No. No, it's not.
No, it's somewhere in the middle. But, I mean, you can just go to the archives and find the actual next strip. It's hardly the biggest obstacle to reading the comic.
That is true.
I might also note that it's customary to give suggestions for the whole group and not just me.
Well, you guys kind of pushed me into it.
What,
Yeah, it's true.
you don't have to give a suggestion if you don't want to.
He just
You weren't letting him talk about poorly planned comics in any context other than suggesting.
Yeah, if I can retract my suggestion, then I'll do that, because I already said what I wanted to say.
If what? Fine. It is so retracted.
I do think that's an interesting observation, though. We should have discussed it during the Night Vale discussion, because I do think that's a good comparison there. Yeah, it's too late. We can't. I don't see any way we could talk about it now.
Too late.
Oh. Except I would say that at least many years ago, I would have said that Poorly Planned Comics was. I would have said it was primarily humor based, and it was very funny. But it has somewhat grown in complexity since then. So yeah, I don't think it's. Well, I'd still say it's very funny though.
Well, a lot of the jokes are scribbled out, so it's hard to tell.
I like Maximum Yucks.
I think it's fair to say that the more recent strips have a much lower density of humor in them than the early ones.
Yeah, that's true. It certainly develops.
Is it the ones that are mostly chat logs of us?
Wait, can I?
Those aren't really comics. I meant before that.
Let me tell you what we're definitely not doing right now. Discussing Poorly Planned Comics any further. Vincent, what's your suggestion?
Oh, right. We should suggest that. We should discuss that next week.
Fine.
All right. Well, this is going to be a problem if too many people have read too much of it. And I think almost everyone has seen parts of it. But how much has everyone read of the Rinkworks Book a Minute and Movie a Minute?
0.
I've heard.
I have no idea what that is.
Oh, really? I know Ben's read that stuff.
Yeah, not all of that.
Well, this is good. This is good. There's a site called rinkworks.com. It's just like it sounds. Rink, like a skating rink. R-I-N-K. Works. R-O-R-K-S. I just misspelled that out loud as I was saying it because I said R instead of W. Yeah. But it'll be linked at the bottom.
Yeah.
Right.
Rinkworks, and they have this.
W-K-S.
Yeah. They use the archaic Middle English spelling of works, but there's there's a lot of stuff on the site, but the only two things that I think are really funny are these things where they summarize books and movies so that you can familiarize yourself with a book or a movie in a minute if you don't have time to read the whole book or watch the whole movie. And it's surprisingly insightful sometimes when they summarize an entire book or a movie into just a handful of lines.
Okay.
How does it compare to Kids in Mind?
We'll discuss next week. That's how this works. The suggestion is this week, and then the discussion is after we've looked at them.
Well, yeah, I think the listeners may be more motivated.
Format. There's one element to this format, and that's that we don't discuss the suggestions until next week.
I mean, we often do.
But no, we don't. Well, maybe
we're just not supposed to.
Okay. Well, I'm enforcing the rule because I'm the moderator and I'm not the crazy version of me.
You're pretending that the house is clean when guests are here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me say one thing about it that sort of answers that question without, I think, giving away anything, but just Rinkworks is not unintentionally funny like that Movies for Kids or whatever it's called thing is. Rinkworks is a deliberately funny site. And so the what you're going to get out of it is not just an unintentional byproduct of it being done by stupid people with dumb motives.
Okay, Vincent, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Can you now give me, just as a gag, a Barry suggestion?
Oh, no, I can't. Jude just woke up, sorry.
Oh, I thought he was about to do one.
And I guess that's all the time we have for today.
Oh, I don't
See
get
you
to
next time.
All right.
I'm going to register rinkrorks.com and make it redirect to a random page in Homestuck.